How many of you have been to the Angel Island Chinese Immigration Detention Center? Wonderful. And if you haven't, I highly recommend that you take a docent tour. Sign up for a docent tour through there. It's hard to believe 40 years ago, I started researching the Angel Island Immigration Station history with him, Mark Lai, passed away over 5 years ago, and Judy Young, fine historians. And after 40 years, we finally got the place to what it is now, a memorial, a national historic monument, landmark. And I'm going to read short excerpts from the play Paper Angels. This to give you a context of the kind of mindset. And if we don't learn from history, we're always destined to repeat it. And you'll hear familiar kind of rhetoric. And this is a monologue from an immigration inspector. At that time, we actually interviewed dozens of internees, Chinese detention center people. Most of them have passed away, as well as immigration inspectors and interpreters. So this, if I can get over the music here. I can't seem to find that chapter. Here we go. The Chinese question. It's my guess that a good 95% of the Chinamen coming through here are bogus. That's right. They come thinking they can pull the wool over the white man's eyes, figuring you can't tell them apart, one from the other. And you know, for the most part, you can. But I give them a run for their money. It's like outwitting a fox. Why, the other day, this Chinaman comes to this hearing, and I'll be damned if it wasn't the same Chinaman we deported 3 years ago. He was coming in under a whole different name, a whole new identity. And I swear to God, I recognize that little bastard. Well, I was the same inquiry inspector who rejected his first entry application. Well, he was smart, little devil. We went back and forth, and I was determined to trip him up, and he was just as determined to toss every curve back at me. Oh, he was fast, never flinched. Must have been no more than 14 years old. And to tell you the truth, I rather like the little fella. But the law is the law, and I have my job to do. You gotta have a system, you know, because if you don't, they'll take advantage of you. And the next thing you know, not only will you have droves of illegal aliens swarming into this country, but they'll be bringing over their wives, children, sundry aunts, uncles, relatives, not to mention the little yellow ones they'll be propagating all over the place. I mean, you gotta have a system. And you gotta be systematic about it. They're coming in fraudulently. You gotta do your best to keep them out. And so we actually interviewed some that were more benign and some that was like, you know, really in the books. You know, I'm doing my job, I'm gonna catch that guy. And so it wasn't all just, they weren't all just, you know, very villainous and cruel. There were some that really sympathized with the internees. And this is an old man, this character, Chin Gung, who's been working on the railroad, and he decides, after being separated from his China wife, that he wants to bring her over. And he's, later on you find out that he has liver flukes and they want to deport him. Well, everybody says, oh, Chin is crazy. I moved all around this country. After the rails, we follow the seasons like geese, always looking for better climate, better conditions. Well, I picked lemons, artichokes, I've harvested walnuts with long poles and caught the falling nuts with sacks. And I was a good cook. So when the cook ran off because he couldn't pay off his gambling debts, I had to prepare the meals for 30, sometimes as many as 50 men a day. I got so frustrated with my life, I gambled away all my earnings. And one day, and the more desperate you are, the crazier you get. But I'll tell you one thing though, I know this land. And I ache for it sometimes like she was my woman. When I dig my hands into her flesh and seed her, something grows. When I water and fertilize her, she begins to swell. And if you treat her with respect, she responds just like a woman. Now, a lot of whites don't know this. You probably think I'm crazy, but I'm in love with this land, and I want to die an American. So I lived just across the water in North Beach, grew up in North Beach, Chinatown, and never set foot on Angel Island until I was an adult. Actually, until we started researching the history of Angel Island. Oh, and we spent, I had my Galileo High School senior picnic on Angel Island. That was the first time that I had gone to Angel Island. I live in this foghorn moon of a fish-o alley. Every night there's a derelict dog, mangy with a cataract stare, licking the wounds of old North Beach. Leftovers, fish and chip, upchuck cheese stick, antipasti blasted against the antiseptic glare of trendy restaurants and glossy gelatos where MTV couples glide frozenly by, catching in the corners of their Ray-Ban eyes their own store-bought reflections. It ain't so bad, Mo Yong Ya. Sundry hookers training their flesh bait out of windows, doorways, orifices of the Europa glistening like fish. Mo Yong Ya, it ain't so bad. Winos and refugees, bag can ladies, panhandlers, Italians, Chinamen, tourists, pinks, punks, junkies, boat people, and runaways converging on this teeming waterhole where the corporate buffalo roams. Where the corporate buffalo roams. Civilization reeks of crab shells, fish heads, cabbages, soiled pampers, cappuccino and Kotex and shocking orange and pink day glow shopping bags, ripped and spewing out the guts of Chinatown, Chinatown. Chinatown, my Chinatown, where the lights are low, low. Low. They all come, the natives like homing pigeons, Midwesterners like homesteaders, Southerners like shipwrecked sailors, East Coasters like fugitives. Through the fog-laden cable cars plummeting over Russian Hill backyards and narrow chopstick alleyways where camera-toting tourists eat cheap chop suey and snap moon-faced babies wide-eyed on their mama's backs out of curiosity. Mo Yong Ya, it ain't so bad, the Indians once said as they traded their land for horses, as they traded their land for firewater. Mo Yong Ya, it ain't so bad, the coolies reason as they jump ship only to sweat from baskets with their pickaxes and their dynamite 20,000 feet from the Sierras like wet human laundry. Chinatown, where the lights are low, low, low. Thank you. Yeah, I grew up in North Beach, Chinatown. Who leaves home? Who leaves behind all that one loves? Everything dear to one. Are immigrants made? Or are immigrants born? Like migrating geese, we come to seek a better life, to escape war and poverty, to carve from the wind a vision of a new life, a new world where the promise of a future can fulfill the mirage of freedom and belonging. Who can say that the wind does not belong to the sky? Who can say that the land beneath our feet is not ours to keep? Who can say that the air we breathe is not our right to breathe? From time immemorial, people have journeyed to follow the seasons, to seek greener pastures like the sheep that graze on summer grasses. When there is war, we migrate. When there is no work, we migrate. When there is no food to eat, we migrate. We who love our homeland, we who must leave our family and everything behind, are immigrants made or born. Who can say that the wind does not belong to the sky? Who can say that the land beneath our feet is not ours to keep? Who can say that the air we breathe is not our right to breathe? Last year, thank you, I had the honor of being published in Italian, so this collection, La Morte del Tempo, it's available back there in the book table. The Death of Time was published. This is I'm a lover of jazz, and I'll be performing actually on October 13 at Bird and Beckett with John Jang, legendary local pianist, composer, and Francis Wong, saxophonist, and also the pioneer director of Asian Improv Arts. And he'll be on sax and reeds, and I'll be reading from a new collection on jazz legends. I grew up on music, and then when I lived in New York for 5-6 years, that was my steady diet, going to jazz clubs, hanging out with jazz musicians. So this is for Monk. A note can be as small as a pin or as big and wide as the world. Training the mind in the great way requires a good ear. Now, just because you are not a drummer doesn't mean you don't have to keep time. There is never any time to spare. It must always be night. Otherwise, we would need lights. But see the brightness when there is no light. And when you're swinging, swing some more. Just let everything go. The fruit is beyond all hope and doubt. Play the melody. Play the tune, Sam. There are no words to express it, like a dewdrop on a blade of grass. Thank you. I'm going to close with Blue Monarch. If you open your eyes wide, you can see the blue monarch flitting through the jagged breeze. She'll carry you off in a cloud, and you'll soar on her wings. You'll rise to heaven. You will feel the heat of the sun and the grazed pastures of summer. And when you look into the blue sky and catch a reflection in a glance, just squint your eyes to elude the nets. Abandon the wake to be reborn each day, like the blue monarch with the fleeting world on her wings. Thank you very much.